The following video contains minor spoilers for the Wheel of Time book and show. Animation as a medium for storytelling has never been more widely accepted in the Western world. Comedies like The Simpsons and Family Guy have been on the air for decades. Adaptations like Castlevania and Invincible are major draws to streaming platforms. And some of the most successful crowdfunding campaigns are animation-related. And yet, for too many fantasy properties, the live-action adaptation is still seen as a gold standard. I've recently finished the first book of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, as well as the Amazon series. And I have to say, it's hard to find an English-language book series better suited to an anime adaptation than The Wheel of Time. And I do mean anime, not just animation in general. Robert Jordan's world is full of Eastern concepts. The life, death, rebirth cycle of the wheel, the concept of balance as represented by the ubiquitous yin-yang symbol, and more katanas than you can shake your superior Nippon steel at. Not to mention a cast of young heroes with magical destinies and a thirst to prove themselves. In fact, just handing a random anime studio a copy of The Eye of the World and a couple of $ sacks from Bezos' money bin would have handled 3 big problems that absolutely plague the Amazon adaptation. Number 1, the visuals. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and the Avengers all managed to give us an incredibly well-realized vision of worlds that we'd only imagined. So why does a subsidiary of a mega corporation like Amazon produce a show that has more in common with self-hating adaptations like the Black Leather X-Men, Rubber-Armored Shaquille O'Neal, or The Last Failbender? Seriously, Moraine looks like most of her wardrobe was swiped from Shyamalan's sham waterbenders. In fact, the costumes in general are underwhelming. The White Cloak's cosplay armor, the fact that not a single warder has the cool camo-shifting color cloak, and the makeup and prosthetics. The worst offender is poor Loyal, whose portrayal is otherwise very true to the books. Now, on the bad guy team, the foot soldiers of the evil army chasing our heroes are beastmen called Trollocs. They look pretty good most of the time, until you see them in the full light of day, and then they look a little too much like edgy fursuiters. Now, to be fair, this is an industry-wide problem. There are 2 factors that made cinematic magic, like Jabba's Palace, the Penguin's Gang, or the Heroes in a Half Shell, possible. 1. The best of special effects talent used to work in prosthetics and makeup. Now it's all about visual effects. And cameras were bad in the 80s and 90s. Seriously, makeup and prosthetics have not kept up with modern high-definition cameras. Anyway, the problems don't end there. City areas like Shadar Logoth and Tar Valon seem weirdly cramped and small, more like a theme park set than a real place. Now, if this were all animated, you could have armored knights, stylish sorceresses, and ninja rangers fighting all kinds of visually distinctive monsters in appropriately epic fantasy locations and have it all in the same visual style. Speaking of battles, that brings me to my second point: action. The best I can say about the fight choreography in The Wheel of Time is that when they choose to focus on it, the fights aren't bad. But that's a fairly rare occurrence. Most action scenes are shot the way you would shoot a war movie. Fast scenes, fast cuts, and a lot of general confusion. It's not as bad as the infamous shaky cam technique, but it serves a similar purpose. Making the bulky mass of shag carpeting that is the Trolloc costumes move and fight with the kind of speed and power they need takes some fancy editing. Likewise, the cast has a wide range of ages, body types, and no doubt physical acting skill levels, so for the sake of consistency, most scenes are shot in this herky-jerky style. The best advice I was ever given about physical acting was, if you're supposed to be doing something, actually do it. For example, if you're supposed to be typing in a scene, actually type. Don't just mash the keys randomly. This has a lot of potential applications in highly physical forms of acting, like fight choreography, but much less in the Wheel of Time's other type of action set piece, magic. Making magic users look good on screen is hard. In fact, it's much easier to make them sound good. So much of the epic awesomeness of Gandalf versus the Balrog in Lord of the Rings is Ian McKellen bellowing, "You shall not pass." This puts the Wheel of Time in a bad position. Channelers don't need to shout, or chant in dead languages, or wave wands, or any other wizard stuff. They don't even have a formal movement set like the Avatar series, which is actually a really good parallel to Wheel of Time. All of the powers are elemental-based, there are no verbal elements or foci, and it manages to look fantastic. Animation has so many tricks for putting magic on screen, like the old standby crazy floating symbols appearing in the air, or whatever particle effect the crew can imagine, or even a really minimalistic style, like stuff just happening under the appropriate circumstances. Any of which would have looked better than the weird operatic gestures and hand-waving of the live-action show. It would also have been cheaper, which leads me to my next and final point. Length. The Eye of the World is 814 pages long. That's a lot to squeeze into an 8-episode show. As a comparison, the Amazon original show, Jack Reacher, is based on a book titled The Killing Floor, which has a page count of 522, and is also 8 episodes long and manages to be very true to the source material. A concept Wheel of Time struggles with. Some changes are genuinely inexplicable, like changing the way the waygates look. But mostly they seem like a struggle to fit a massive book full of very important details that absolutely will come up again into an arbitrary 8-episode format. This is where hiring an anime studio would have benefited the production the most. The per-episode budget of Wheel of Time is about $10 million, which is honestly not bad for a big-budget streaming series. But a high-end animated series like Castlevania has a per-episode budget of about $400,000. So, for the price of one live-action season, you could have had 200 episodes of an animated series. That's like One Piece long. And more than enough time to fit in all the necessary scenes and lay the groundwork for all the plot threads that will end up connecting together. Amazon Studios clearly aspires to be a serious rival to longtime king of streaming, Netflix. But if they're serious, why do they keep trying to outdo Netflix in the bad adaptation arena? The Wheel of Time was their chance to prove they could bring a fantasy epic to life. And that was something they very much needed to prove. Because Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power premieres later this year. And unlike my theoretical anime adaptation of The Wheel of Time, The Rings of Power will inevitably be compared to War of the Rohirrim, an honest-to-goodness Lord of the Rings anime coming in 2024. Amazon has the budget and the opportunity to become the next big thing in the streaming world. But only if they have the humility to realize when someone else can produce a better product. Thank you for watching. I'm the Stupid Private. If you'd like to support my work outside of YouTube, check out Sorcerous, a dark fantasy RPG, available right now on Steam. Follow the link in the description to watch the trailer. And if you'd like to see more reviews of anime, movies, TV shows, or comics, check out my channel right here on YouTube.
Hey kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter 4 and the number potato! I'm a stupid private.